on Prime Crime. They're the most heartbreaking cases to investigate.
Her family went crazy. They called 911, they called everyone. It was mass chaos because she just disappeared in thin air.
They just pulled the plug on this child. This child is dead.
Oh my God.
The most difficult cases to try.
DNA that was recovered in this case belonging to Mr. Coons was a matter of a few cells. Again, things you won't hear: no semen, no blood, no other identifiable bodily fluid.
And some of the most important stories to tell.
By all accounts, Harmony was one of the sweetest girls that you could have met. Harmony loved Minnie Mouse. She was a bright girl, a vibrant girl.
The pain of her mother sounds the same in no matter what language you hear it. There's just a certain tone, and once you hear it, it sits with you.
Hey everybody, I'm Jesse Weber. Over the past 4 years, Prime Crime has promised to break down the most memorable and high-profile true crime cases, and I'm proud to say that we have done just that. But in this special episode, we are going to take a minute to pour over the most heartbreaking stories we have ever covered. Children taken much too soon. The faces behind me are a reminder that even though they may be gone, they're never forgotten. These victims and their families have suffered unimaginable loss. And I know this is a difficult topic, but these stories beg so many important questions. What signs were missed? What could have been done to prevent it? And maybe the most important question of all, who can we trust with our children? We don't have all the answers, but in order to bring justice to those with no voice, someone must speak for them. Meet 12-year-old Johanna Arteaga, a daughter, sister, athlete, and model student.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
Hi. My sister, we just got home. She went home alone. They killed my sister. I don't know what to do.
On August 10th, 2017, this chilling 911 phone call from a mobile home park out in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, is placed by Patricia Velazquez and her daughter, Jocelyn Arteaga.
Hold on, stay on the line with me, okay? We're gonna get somebody fixed there.
And listening to 911 tapes and, working with them in a number of homicide cases during my time as a prosecutor, that pain of her mother sounds the same in no matter what language you hear it. There's just a certain tone, and once you hear it, it sits with you.
Tell me exactly what happened.
So my daughter is 12 years old. I went to work at 12:30. I worked from here at 12:30. And it seems that somebody came into the trailer, broke in, they choked her, and it seems like they raped her.
The investigation into the death of 12-year-old Johanna Arteaga begins.
Johanna's murder was one of the more brutal cases that I've reviewed. It happened in a location that I think that most 12-year-olds would feel safe and secure. That's in their home. Her cause of death ultimately is an asphyxial death. It's an asphyxial death by strangulation. Whoever did this took their time. She didn't see this guy coming.
And it only gets worse.
There was a bit of disrobing went on here. Anytime that you have the appearance of an event that might have a sexual connotation, you're always going to do a sexual assault kit.
Police arrive on scene and begin to canvass the area. At one point, Detective Chris Bowden interviews Johanna's neighbor, Roy Coons Jr.
How you doing? Doing well. You live here? Yeah. You been here pretty much all day, or?
I've been in and out.
You never saw anything unusual, strange, nothing nothing stood out to you? Like, I've never seen that guy before?
No.
Roy Coons is an ex-con with quite the rap sheet.
This is a man who has been arrested 102 times. And his first arrest started when he was 19 years old. In 1999, he was convicted of his third DUI guilty. 2001, he was guilty of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. 2006, he's guilty of 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. 2010, guilty of aggravated burglary. Now, during this span of his first arrest from 1991 to 2020, he also had 13 probation violations.
You have a 12-year-old daughter that was killed. Would you or would you not want us to do everything that we possibly can to find out what took place?
What happened down there? Her daughter got killed?
She's dead.
I know them, man.
Are you agitated because of the horrors of what happened in your neighborhood? That's completely logical. But at the same token, you do have to recognize that law enforcement does need to do their job and do and conduct an investigation. Why can't you just provide the basic information needed so we can eliminate you as a suspect and move on to the next person?
No, man, I'm not getting involved in that. I got enough going on.
And the only reason we want to talk to you a little more is because you were home a little more than everybody else.
And like I said, I'm inside most of the time. I don't come out because I know how I am.
Right.
And I get riled up.
Just keep my number.
I got your number.
And it changes.
If I see anything or hear anything in front,
You call.
and I will.
Before police leave, they witness Coons throw a cigarette butt on the ground.
You know, if you find something that has been discarded, there will be some element of you perhaps left behind. And what finer example of this than a cigarette butt? You're touching the exterior of the cigarette. But more importantly, you're essentially inoculating and introducing your saliva into the filter of that cigarette. You can find red blood cells in there. And of course, red blood cells are a fine source for DNA.
It belongs to my dad's best friend. He passed away.
Okay.
Done a lot of work down there.
So you said you've done a lot of work
Yeah.
down there? So you've been inside?
Yeah.
Have you been inside since Patricia owned it?
Just the doorway. Sunday or Monday, when I went down there and asked her about the lawnmower, she down the lawnmower, and then a couple of times prior to that.
Is there any reason that we could ever possibly find your DNA on her?
I mean, I'll shake their hand and stuff like that. It sounds.
This exchange is critical.
Roy's DNA was found in 3 locations. It was found on the back of a windowsill, on a shirt, and on a sock. Roy's DNA wasn't found on the yellow karate belt that she was strangled with, a tissue, a pillow, a mattress, a bed rail, her bra, her shirt, a Cheetos wrapper, the bedspread, and her left breast. But where a YSTR match that could not be ruled out, where it could be him or a paternal linkage to him, was found on a facial swab of hers. It was found on her right buttocks and her left arm.
DNA aside, the prints at the crime scene are not a match for Coons.
We don't have prints on the ends of our fingers. These are easily obliterated. This is quite fascinating. The day after the homicide, Coons was actually walking down the road and there was a police officer that was there. One of the things that the police officer noticed is that Coons had latex gloves hanging out of his pocket during that interaction.
What do you think should happen to the person that heard this story?
Same thing. Whatever happened to her should happen to them. I would pretty much make sure that they endure whatever my child is. You know, like I was telling you yesterday, Miss Joe's sister-in-law goes to the state to take care of rape and strangulation and stuff like that.
There's only one problem with that statement.
He had intimate knowledge of the events that had not been released to the public. He talked about things like sexual assault, strangulation. First off, he was hanging around, and now he has intimate knowledge of a scene, something that no one else has had eyes on.
Before Johanna was killed, she sent a series of text messages to her mother, she was home alone, nursing an injured ankle. These final words from Johanna would crack the case wide open.
At 4:15, the victim wrote to her mother, "Mom, someone is knocking on the door." And then at 4:19, the victim wrote back to her mother, "I think it was the man who cuts the yard." At that point, I knew that was very important because I was at the crime scene and I knew that one of the suspects was the caretaker of the lawn.
It wasn't for the grass cutting, I don't think I would have ever met him.
Text message is a huge component. It puts him there. It puts him in contact with her right around the time that she was murdered.
That gives you chills. You're looking for a perpetrator that is predatory in nature. Who would have the opportunity to conduct this observation, to see that this child is at home by themselves, and to understand the environment, the scene, if you will, and all of that comes together in kind of this horrible, horrible storm.
A month later, the family's neighbor, Roy Coons Jr., is arrested and charged in connection with Johanna's death. In July 2019, Coons went on trial for multiple charges, including first-degree murder. The prosecution laid out their case.
You have the DNA that shows he was in contact with her around the time that she was murdered.
DNA YSTR profile on the right cheek, on the right buttocks, and on the left arm of Johanna's dead body. And it was the exact same YSTR profile as Roy Coons Jr.
You look at his statements, you look at his knowing certain facts about the crime that only law enforcement and the person committing the crime would have known.
He knows that Johanna has been strangled. That information was not public at the time the defendant knew it.
The text message, the basically words from beyond the grave that came from Johanna.
At 4:19 p.m., she identifies that the man who was knocking on the door of her trailer that day was the man who cuts the lawn. All the proof you've heard has shown that Roy Coons was the man who cut their lawn at that trailer.
You put all of that together, and that is what shows guilt.
However, this is not as simple as it seems.
Roy Coons did not kill, did not attempt to rape, and he did not burglarize Johanna Ortega's mobile home. You're not going to hear from a single eyewitness that Mr. Coons went in that mobile home on that day. You're not going to see any video footage from security cameras showing that he did that. You're not going to hear from any witnesses that he had any motive or had attempted to do anything to this family in the past. DNA that was recovered in this case belonging to Mr. Coons was a matter of a few cells. Again, things you won't hear: no semen, no blood, no other identifiable bodily fluid.
One of the biggest struggles for the prosecution in this case has to do with the fact that there's no real direct evidence.
Before the trial concludes, the prosecution presents another piece of evidence for the jury to consider. They say that Coons made a startling admission while living in a homeless encampment.
He just asked me if I ever killed somebody. I didn't ask him if he ever did, but he told me he has. He didn't tell me who he was or how long he was, but he said he did. This is his word. That sticks with you. That's what he said. As soon as I walked out of his tent, I was so freaked out. I never get scared.
Many people will make comments about these events without stating the specifics of the event. This burden gnaws at him. He's sleeping in a wooded area not too far away from the victim, and I think that tells you a lot.
We, the jury, find the defendant Ronald Don Coons Jr. in count 1 guilty of second-degree murder. Count 2, felony murder, guilty. Count 4, guilty of attempted rape of a child. Count 5, guilty of aggravated criminal trespass.
I am not surprised that the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder as opposed to first-degree murder. So first-degree murder suggests premeditation. It means that you plan to commit this crime. To me, it sounds like the jury looked at all this evidence and felt like it was a crime of opportunity. That he was in the area, happened to see that Johanna was alone or figure out that she was alone and took advantage in that moment.
Roy Coons is sentenced to life in prison plus an additional 25 years.
This was one of those cases that really tugs at the heartstrings. I mean, you see this family that, they work hard every day. They're doing the best they can to try to attain the American dream. And for the mother and a sister to come home and see their loved one in that condition, that horrible, horrible day is seared into their memory. And I just can't even imagine the pain that this family is going through and will continue to go through, because we all know that a guilty verdict, while that may be the end of the case, is not the end of the trauma and the grieving journey of those that are left behind.
Johanna Ortega's heartbreaking story can be boiled down to simply and sadly a crime of opportunity. And to this day, Roy Coons Jr. is serving a life sentence plus an additional 25 years for the attempted rape of Johanna. Now, this next story is a cautionary tale. Do we really know the people we let into our children's lives? Remember Hannah Weshy, a beautiful 3-year-old girl who loved to play, laugh, and eat hot dogs with extra ketchup?
I babysit kids. She just dropped her off, and all of a sudden she just passed out. The little girl was 3.
On March 8th, 2018, babysitter Lindsay Parton alerts Ohio police that the toddler she's watching has suddenly collapsed.
Yes and no. Okay. Yes and no. I don't know what's wrong.
That 3-year-old girl is Hannah Weshy.
She felt pretty bad yesterday, and she couldn't find that all of a sudden she got out this morning and she walked in and she kind of passed out. She went limp.
After Hannah is rushed to the hospital, Parton, who's a mother herself, is brought in to speak with law enforcement.
So we walked in, she was in front of me, and she went to take off her jacket and just fell forward. And like I said, Hannah, get up. What are you doing? I thought maybe she tripped because I was putting my robe down. I'm in shock. Right.
Detectives need to figure out what exactly happened here, including whether this could have been an accident.
You know that she's mischievous, Hannah, and that when she's at home with her dad, that he's very busy and he doesn't get to pay attention. Yeah. I'll say, oh, did you fall? Did you jump off the couch again? Because she jumps off the couch a lot.
What happens in these cases is you'll have some type of an explanation, usually an innocent explanation, because we've all been around kids. We all know that kids fall down, they get bumps and they get bruises, and that's something that we've all shared in our common experience.
Hannah's not so good. Whatever happened to her happened this morning. And she has a severe brain.
Oh my God.
So what we need is the truth from you.
But yeah, that is the truth.
We need to know how this happened, that way we can treat her.
I'm absolutely telling you the truth. Oh my God.
The way it's looking right now is that this happened at your house, because we need to find out. We need the truth.
I swear to God, I'm telling you the exact truth. We walked in the house
from what the
and
doctor's saying, she did not walk, she did not talk with this type of injury. None of that is possible.
She did, I promise you she did.
And they're saying that's not possible.
I believe you're not being honest with us, and you need to come clean with it.
Then, detectives share a huge development in the case that changes the course of this story.
They just pulled the plug on this child. This child is dead.
Oh my God.
These child abuse cases come right down to the observable injuries. Babies, toddlers, they don't just die all of a sudden. They were able to observe things that are pathognomonic for child abuse. In other words, the only explanation for the existence of these observable injuries, retinal hemorrhages, brain swelling, is inflicted trauma.
Hey, I just want to quickly thank Upside for sponsoring this episode of Prime Crime. If you don't know what it is, Upside is great. It is a free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, food. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. Go out to lunch, I can use Upside. Maybe I get something at a convenience store, I can use Upside. And why not get cash back when I do all these things, right? This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. And make sure to use our promo code PRIMECRIME because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Welcome back to a special edition of Prime Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Where we last left off in 2018, detectives are questioning babysitter Lindsay Parton in connection with the death of 3-year-old Hannah Weshy. Now, Parton claims that Hannah simply collapsed at her home, but police are thinking there is much more to the story. Parton says something that catches investigators' attention. When Hannah's father, Jason, dropped Hannah off, Parton claims her head was partially obscured.
Was he carrying her?
Mm-hmm. Carries her in, has her blanket over her. It's cold, obviously, right now. You know, they kiss goodbye, whatever. He's not back to get you. Just said, okay, bye.
Detectives are now forced to consider whether Hannah arrived at Parton's with her injuries and whether Jason is at fault.
Is Jason capable of this? Does he have a temper? Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen him hit the kids?
No, I haven't. But I have not known him long enough to know that, and I've never been in his house.
Have you ever seen bruises on her?
She's bruised on straight.
Really, it could only be one of two people. It was either Parton or it was him, because they literally had their hands on this child and passed her off within moments of each other.
I just know she's been beat, and that's the cause of her death today.
I would never hurt her. Jason's telling us that she gets hurt a lot at your house. That she always comes home with bruises. That's completely untrue. She comes to my house with bruises. So who do we believe?
So I'm going to be very matter of fact with you. If you're sitting here telling the truth, that's great. But if you're sitting here and you're covering and you know things, listen to the words I'm going to tell you. You will be
Yes.
There's absolutely no positive way that this child was sitting down, playing, having conversations, that it absolutely could not have happened.
It is highly unlikely that she would have been able to have been injured the day before, because treating doctors specifically stated that the blows to her head would have resulted within seconds or minutes. She wouldn't have been able to be functioning.
I will look you in the eye. I've never hurt a kid in my life. I wouldn't even hurt my kids. I don't spank. I don't believe in spanking.
Parton is called in for another interview with investigators. It's here where she attempts to further explain away Hannah's various injuries.
Yep. That's exactly where she fell, and on her chin. She didn't even, her hand didn't even hit. Like, she just...
So all these small little bruises and the ones on the chin.
Yes, I know about those right there.
That's all from that.
Yes. When she looked up at me and said, buddy, can I have donut and couch, and went to take her jacket off, and she fell on that side.
This is bruised on both sides. Yeah.
Children can certainly injure themselves in falls. We've all seen it. Every toddler falls down. They have a few bumps and bruises along the way, and yet they're not the same types of injuries. What's the difference is the severity and the number and the location.
So when people fall, you're going to have bruising on the sharp points. If you fall straight forward, you're not going to have bruising over here.
And that's why we wanted to come down and fill in some of these holes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, a lot of these aren't adding up to a fall in the gravel.
It's at this point when Parton drops a bombshell about what happened prior to Hannah suddenly collapsing.
I slipped on her blanket, and I opened the door, and we both went down. I was holding her on the left side. When I slipped, it hit her side. I actually hit my head on the door coming down, but she smacked her face, her head really hard on the concrete step.
And I fell, and she fell.
So why would you hide that?
I didn't want to be in trouble.
Why would you
I don't know.
At the very beginning, she basically said, I don't know what happened. She just came in and said, couch, donut, and then she collapsed. Well, no, the shortfall that you're describing does not comport with the injuries. Well, now we have the biggest problem for Miss Parton, which is that she's already, by her own admission, caught being untruthful about what happened with the child.
But Parton's next claim turns this whole case on its head.
How does this happen?
I slapped her upside the head.
With what?
My hand. She took all the ketchup out and squirted it into the toilet. And I didn't think that hurt her. I really didn't.
So these were closed fists like uppercuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, not only has Parton confessed to abusing Hannah, but listen to what she says next.
She didn't want him to go to work. And he's like, I gotta go. So he rushed out, and I was like, Hannah, you can't do that. Daddy's gotta go to work.
You shook her?
Yeah. I shook her, and I remember picking her up and squeezing her, and we did fall.
How hard did you shake her?
She was in trouble.
Yeah. And you were angry?
Yeah.
Lindsay Parton is charged with child endangerment, manslaughter, and murder for the death of Hannah Wesche. Her trial would begin in April of that year.
We don't know exactly what happened here. We only need to prove that Hannah was abused and or that the defendant violated her duty to that child.
Parton's defense argued that she didn't cause Hannah's death. In fact, they say the toddler collapsed within a minute of having been dropped off at Parton's house, and it's possible her injuries could have resulted from something or someone else.
So she can't say it was 20 minutes, she can't say it was an hour, she can't say days.
Because that's reasonable doubt. That says this child was injured somewhere else, not in the 30 seconds, not in the minute that Lindsay Parton had her.
The problem with autopsies and most forensic evidence is we don't know how the trauma was inflicted. So that's why that's always a battle of the experts.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether or not Hannah could have been walking or talking or behaving in a normal fashion after receiving the injuries that resulted in her death?
She could not. This is a tremendous brain injury. This is really serious.
If the state's pathologist had testified as to a significant or severe force, you would disagree with that?
Yes, I would disagree with that.
The autopsy shows, beyond any doubt, that this child died as a result of homicide. This child died as a result of inflicted trauma. The defense experts testified that these injuries, although they do exist, didn't necessarily manifest themselves in one certain time frame that you could pinpoint of who was responsible. So that window, when the injuries might have been inflicted, is open.
In this case, I do not believe it was immediate for the simple reason that the impact does not impress me about being the type of impact where I would have coup and contre-coup and fractures and big subdural and all that didn't happen.
If Parton didn't inflict these injuries, then who did?
You lied to the police about milk and Walmart, correct?
I was confused, yes, ma'am.
Hey, by the way, you know what's a tool that we use to look up the various people and the stories that we cover? Truth Finder. So this is a powerful background checker that we use to do research. You plug in a name, you get address information, you get criminal history, and let me just say, this can give you some peace of mind. Truth Finder is one of the largest public record search services in the United States. And with a paid subscription service, you can get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. And that includes looking up registered sex offenders that may be in your area too. So if you're interested, you can get 50% off of confidential background reports right now. Just go to truthfinder.com/LCPrimeCrime. Babysitter Lindsay Parton is facing charges of child endangerment and murder in connection with the death of 3-year-old Hannah Wesche. But was she really the person responsible?
I think the defense had to go with the most easily blamable person, and a lot of times when there is violence, it is within spouses or within a parent. And we also know that he had observed some strange behaviors from her, in addition to some of the things that he said that were not true in terms of going out to get milk. There were several details that wound up not being accurate.
Today is the first time you've told
Detective Turner, in this room that you didn't go get milk the night before, but instead you went to Fairfield?
No, ma'am.
When did you previously tell him that?
When I found out, Monday morning when we were in court.
I indicated that your whereabouts for the night of the 7th of March were very important and suspicious. Doesn't have anything to do with that?
No, ma'am.
You lied to the police about milk and Walmart, correct?
I was confused, yes, ma'am.
I found Jason to be relatively credible. He did have some inconsistencies with minor facts. They can be explained by the trauma he was going through missing his child. Overall, he made a good witness.
Parton takes the stand, hoping to convince the jury of her innocence.
Lindsay, did you cause harm to Hannah Weshy on March 8th?
I did not.
Why did you tell the police that you did?
Because I wanted to protect everybody.
Miss Parton took the witness stand, and she had a very tough road to hoe because she had to explain to jurors why she herself shouldn't be believed. She, by her own admission, was untruthful during the interrogation. If she can lie to the police, the prosecution is going to say, well, then she can certainly lie to the jurors.
Why didn't you throw Jason to the wolves, to the detectives on March 8th?
Because I care about him. He was my friend. Wanted to protect everybody. I didn't want anybody to be in trouble.
Why would you want to protect someone who did this to a child?
I always think the best of people.
When she told jurors that she was protecting people, she's doing that at the expense of the child because she's not protecting the child. If she wanted to protect the child, she would have told the truth about who actually did this as soon as it happened.
Parton claims police coerced her confession.
We know what this is consistent with.
Yeah.
Look at me. We do this for a living.
No, I know.
Okay?
I know.
This is not the first 3-year-old that we're staring at pictures about, okay? It's not a fault. And you know what caused this.
They didn't care what I had to say. I felt pressured. I felt forced. I wanted to protect everybody. I felt bullied.
Did you lie to the police?
I told them what they wanted to hear.
I did not think that the interview was overly suggestive. We see many different types of police interviews, and a lot of them have very obvious elements of duress. This was just not one of those examples, specifically because she actually testified to details that were not given to her by police.
When it's time for the prosecution to cross-examine Parton, they don't hold back.
You didn't Google how to make a bruise look better, how to make a bruise feel better. You Googled how to get rid of a bruise. Is that right?
Yes.
You indicated that it was your belief you could physically discipline Hannah.
Yes.
You could squeeze her middle.
Yes.
Was it your belief that you could hit her on the face with an open hand?
Yes.
And was it your belief that you could hit her on the chin with a closed fist?
Yes.
And was it your belief that you could shake her?
Yes.
It's always difficult for a defendant to decide whether or not to testify at trial, particularly when there are statements that are being used against them. So the decision to testify was risky, and in this instance, it did not pay off. She universally came off very poorly on the stand, appeared to be condescending. I think here it was a mistake to testify.
As to count 4 of the indictment, involuntary manslaughter, we, the duly impaneled jury, do find the defendant, Lindsay Parton, guilty, accompanied by all 12 signatures. As to count 5 of the indictment, endangering children, we, the duly impaneled jury, do find the defendant, Lindsay Parton, guilty. As to count 6 of the indictment, murder, we, the duly impaneled jury, do find the defendant, Lindsay Parton, guilty.
The jurors gave Miss Parton an opportunity to be heard, and they just didn't believe her. The testimony that she gave ultimately was totally inconsistent with the physical, observable injuries on the child, and the jury's verdict reflects that.
I do sentence the defendant, Lindsay Parton, to a lifetime imprisonment with parole eligibility after 15 years.
It's hard to predict whether Miss Parton's going to make parole. Parole boards don't often like to parole people who have committed very violent offenses like this, but if she behaves, tries to better herself, and takes responsibility, she may be able to convince the parole board that she is rehabilitated.
It's something that's in my mind every single day. Time doesn't make anything easier. It makes it rougher. Try to go day by day. I was relieved that that part was over and she was convicted. I'm glad she went to prison, obviously. We hope that she does not make parole in 2037. It's bewildering. I don't understand how anybody could think that that's okay to do to a child.
Up next, it's the case of the death of a pregnant 16-year-old girl and the suspect no one could imagine.
I guess by you killing her, you did the right thing, because you probably be in a worse situation than she was in.
Real quick, I have to say this. I hope that you know that it is really a privilege and a responsibility of ours to tell these stories. We don't take it lightly. And one of the reasons that we can keep on producing these kinds of shows is because of the incredible support that we get from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Look, here's the deal. If you should get injured, America's largest injury law firm, that may be who you want in your corner. Listen to this track record. In the past few months, Morgan & Morgan, they secured a $9.3 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, a $5.6 million verdict for another car accident victim in Atlanta, and not to mention $1.8 million in Kentucky after insurance offered them just $5,000 in that case. And even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not just start a claim and fight for the money you deserve? Seeing if you have a case can be done in 8 clicks or less. You don't even have to leave your couch. By the way, their fee, absolutely free unless you win. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/primecrime or scan the QR code on screen. Hey everybody, welcome back. Just a reminder that all the pictures you see behind me are some of the young lives that were taken too soon. On this episode, we are resharing their heartbreaking stories. Our next case is among the most twisted we have ever covered. At the time, the Sawyer family and police frantically pursued every lead, but the investigation takes a stunning turn that will leave you speechless.
Jacksonville 911, what's the location of your emergency?
Do not come home from school today, so phone is going straight to voicemail. That is not like her. Okay. You have no idea what she is.
December 19th, 2018, started out a normal day. IS was a 16-year-old high school student, a sophomore, straight A student at Terry Parker High School here in Jacksonville, Florida. She also went to school with her sister, SS, who was a year younger in her 9th grade year.
Because Ayanna Sawyer and her sister are minors, investigators sometimes refer to them by their initials, IS and SS, to protect their identities.
Her sister was on a bus and she wasn't. I don't understand why she wasn't on a bus.
Did you ask your sister why?
She said she didn't know, and that's not like her. That's not like them to be together.
When SS calls her mother frantically, stating that IS did not get on the bus, Kimberly Mobley was at work. So she called 2 of her sisters. One of the sisters called 911 while the other one headed to Terry Parker High School.
Her family went crazy. They called 911, they called everyone. It was mass chaos because she just disappeared in thin air.
So IS, she was the firstborn. She was extremely close to her mom. She was extremely loyal. She loved being with her family. She wanted to be either a doctor or a lawyer. She was into her scholastics, being the straight A student. However, sadly, at the age of 16, she was carrying a big secret. And that secret was she was pregnant.
Ayanna is 5 months pregnant. Though she only recently told her mom, the family supports her. And they've even named her unborn baby Hazel Michelle. All they want is to find Ayanna safe and sound.
IS did not attend her last 2 periods of school. Video surveillance showed that she did in fact leave Terry Parker High School at approximately 11 a.m. And we don't know who picked her up because that was outside of camera footage at the time. She has 2 bags. One is full, of course, regular school items such as textbooks, notebooks, and then another bag has a voluminous amount of Victoria's Secret items, a body pillow. The family is left questioning, where is IS?
The consensus between police is that
She has left school voluntarily. There was no obvious signs of any force or anything like that.
Our theory of the case is she either ran away and didn't want to be found, or she ran away because her mom wanted to know who the father of the child was. She didn't want to tell, and that led to friction between the two.
The police, they were just trying to do what they could to find her. They did some basic search around the area. They set up the tip line. The family was doing quite a bit. They were looking for anything.
After 2 days of searching with no sign of Ayanna, police changed her status from a runaway to a missing person. Then, her mom makes a disturbing discovery.
Her mom was searching through, her room, through her laptop, through her boxes in her closet, anything she could to determine where she may be. She finds this Word document on Ayanna's laptop that kind of seemed strange.
How do you get to it? Tell me how do you get to it.
I went there in the recycle bin right here.
The recycle bin?
And then she also got other notes over here on the side. If they asked you for a password, she got some of the notes locked. And she got other stuff that she wrote in here about him too, though.
It was a couple pages long, and it was a pouring out her heart of this person, Jose, her love for this person, the betrayal of this person.
Ayanna's mom has never heard her talk about Jose. Could it be a code name for someone? Could she have run away with this person? The laptop entries are dated February and March 2018, almost a year before Ayanna disappeared.
She confronts Ayanna's sister, and Ayanna's sister's the one who says, oh, that's Jose is Uncle John. So Ayanna was John's niece by marriage. He was Uncle John to Ayanna and to the other siblings as well. They were very close. His wife and him both took care of the kids on a regular basis. They would spend time at their house. John, really charismatic guy. He's very likable. He was a mechanic. He was a handyman. He had a good family life, was working, doing well, married, had a kid, another one on the way at the time.
Ayanna's mom knows the two were very close, but if Uncle John, aka Jonathan Quilez, is the Jose in Ayanna's laptop entries, did things go too far? Her mom is determined to get to the bottom of whatever is going on. She calls police, and they head over to his house.
Hey, John, what's going on?
This is crazy.
All this just got dropped on me. Like,
both of us. I was just trying to get a damn guy to sign a lease over here, and I'm coming back and see patrol cars in my dang house.
He arrived while they were there. He was calm, cool, and collective.
And that's when the couple makes a statement that seems to catch officers by surprise.
So while talking about, well, do you know any items that are missing of IS's? Well, the wife had stated when she left, she took a lot of her Victoria's Secret undergarments.
Jonathan Quilez is even more specific.
Oh yeah, her 38 pair, indicating that she had taken 38 pairs of Victoria's Secret undergarments with her. How someone in a family relationship would know that is obviously very odd.
We are right at the center of one of the most gripping and twisted stories we have ever covered. A 16-year-old pregnant teen goes missing, and police are getting closer to their prime suspect. December 27th, 2018, about a week after 16-year-old Ayanna Sawyer, or IS, disappeared. Police have brought in her uncle, Jonathan Quilez, for an interview. They press him about the laptop entries his niece wrote that indicates the two had sexual relations.
You guys took my DNA at the house. I don't have nothing to hide. You are looking at the wrong person. I have nothing to do with that girl disappearing whatsoever.
They don't arrest him that day. They detain him, they talk to him, but then they release him.
However, Quilez has raised enough suspicions that a few days later, police turn the investigation over to homicide detective Bill Abbott, who immediately processes the DNA Quilez provided.
It was submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement here, and a rush was put onto it because what we had learned was that a sexual assault kit involving IS had been submitted back in March of 2018. And there was unknown DNA.
The results show DNA from neighbor Kamar Humphrey, with whom Ayanna had a relationship. But the unknown DNA was additional. Could it be her Uncle John's?
Well, on January 7th, 2019, a shock came. Jonathan Quiles' DNA was on IS's panties. Complete, utter shock. It only heightened that Jonathan Quiles was definitely a person of interest. Then a bombshell hit. A phone call comes in to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. That individual identified himself as Joseph Quiles, Jonathan Quiles' brother. And oh boy, did he have a story to tell. Jonathan Quiles had called his brother. He stated it was either December 19th, 2018 or December 20th, 2018, that his brother was frantic, stating that this girl might be pregnant, it might be mine, and I have to get rid of the body. Joseph Quiles then stated his brother hung up the phone. However, sometime later, he called back, calmer, not upset, not nervous, said he had taken care of it.
When Joseph asks his brother to explain, Quiles reportedly gets surprisingly specific.
Jonathan Quiles tells his brother that he lured her to his work in an area where no video surveillance, no other workers, it's loud, and he went to strangle her, but he couldn't stomach it, so he shot her. He then put her body in a dumpster, and then it's done.
Detectives then drop a bomb on Quiles that nobody saw coming.
So if I were to tell you that I found some underwear that had your DNA in it, how would you explain that?
I would say that is not, there's no way in shape in any form.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way.
So with the case across the street, there was a kit done.
Correct.
And she was wearing specific clothes to include underwear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she told me that was one of her biggest pet peeves, that they took her underwear from her.
Okay. So that's what he's talking
That's
about.
what I was referring to.
That wasn't my DNA. That I didn't.
100%.
No way.
It's DNA. Yeah.
I'm not saying you're a monster. I don't think you're a monster at all. Okay? I think maybe they came on to you and things went a little too far. It happens all the time.
Quiles was placed under arrest for the sexual battery of his niece Ayanna Sawyer, and a detective on the case has a plan to set a trap for him while he awaits trial.
Detective Abbott, through his partners and his homicide team, they were able to get into contact with some other inmates. One of the inmates then was wired up, and through the instructions that Detective Abbott and his homicide team had given this inmate was, see what Jonathan Quiles will tell you.
Just 2 days later, the detective's plan seems to pay off.
You did good by doing it, getting rid of the body and all that.
Why would they point the finger at you? Because of my brother.
Now why did you kill her? If you didn't think she was gonna tell, or you just felt like it was gonna hit the fan and later on.
Yeah, she had 16 months that she came out that she was pregnant. There's a possibility that was mine.
When Jonathan starts talking, he doesn't know how to stop, and he just keeps going. His biggest flaw is he's a chatterbox.
When you saw that, where happened?
It was over at the job. It was loud over there.
Oh, you shot at the job and left there overnight?
It was loud at the job.
This girl would have jumped out, screamed anything. So what about the cameras?
The camera system. It's like everything is blurry, nothing is focused. And that's the thing, the cameras do work, but they suspect. In A speaker part, there's so many spots you could throw over the gate.
I guess by you killing her, you did the right thing, because you probably be in a worse situation than she was living.
The challenge with jailhouse snitches is that you could have some doubts, well, he's just bragging in prison because he wants to have some street cred there. But his words are his words, and when you compare that to his own brother's comments and Miss Sawyer's younger sister's words that Jose was Jonathan, now the evidence is really starting to pile up.
She got shot. Got rid of the weapon. You addressed it to me over at the house.
You took the gun off and everything?
Went to the gun range the same day.
Police find his signature on the sign-in sheet at the range and the gun in his closet.
He went to the gun range and shot the gun. The only thing I can think of about that statement is maybe he thought some forensic evidence could show that the gun had been recently shot.
If that was Quilles's plan, it seems like it worked.
Here, there's no blood evidence, there's no DNA, there's nothing on your gun. And it's alleged that he shot her at close range, like in the heart even. The physical evidence didn't line up with what we were expecting to see.
Investigators check every vehicle in the yard and find no trace of Ayanna.
So what police had was a theory that he shot Miss Sawyer and then dumped her body in a dumpster that was quickly removed. But there was a lack of physical evidence here.
Based on what Quilles has said, Detective Abbott follows up on the dumpster.
Detective Abbott learns on December 20th, 2018, All American Garbage picks up the container. It went to Otis Road landfill. So Detective Abbott then makes contact with the Otis Road landfill.
The sheriff's office spent over $1.5 million over 3 weeks to go through and excavate this landfill. It was almost 80 feet deep. The tons and tons of trash that was moved, even by their own account, was monumental in nature. And they found nothing over a 3-week period of time.
They couldn't find anything that directly tied Mr. Quilles to Miss Sawyer's disappearance. They found some articles of clothing that they thought were Miss Sawyer's, but the sizes were a little different. It was some Victoria's Secret clothing, and it could have been her clothing, especially as she was carrying a baby, but it's not 100% clear to law enforcement that they've got the goods.
With no physical evidence, the question is whether the evidence investigators do have is enough to indict Jonathan Quilles in the murder of his niece and her unborn child.
And thinking about, well, what kind of charges are we going to do? Well, ultimately, it was decided that we were going to do first-degree murder. And the reasons why we were going to do those particular charges, and also in the state of Florida, we can do that for an unborn child. So we knew there was going to be 2 counts for that.
On July 18th, 2019, about 6 months after Ayanna Sawyer disappears, investigators send Jonathan Quilles' case to a grand jury.
We met with the grand jury today on your case as well as several others, and you are being indicted on first-degree murder. The 3rd count is going to be sexual battery. Okay? We need to advise you of that.
Okay.
All right. We would like to talk to you if you're willing to speak with us.
I have an attorney that's representing me, but she doesn't want me to talk to nobody without her being present.
After the grand jury indictment, Jonathan Quilles' case doesn't go to trial for another 4 years.
Once they heard everything, that puzzle was built, that picture was painted, that they would know beyond every reasonable doubt that the defendant, Jonathan Quilles, killed his family member because he could not let the world know that he fathered an underage juvenile child.
The defense responds, telling the jury, not so fast.
They have to prove that Mr. Quilles is the one that committed this crime. There will be no direct evidence to say that he did. You will not hear it.
Investigating and looking through the evidence that the state had gathered, the glaring issue again and again was the lack of physical evidence that they had.
There will be no DNA to say he's the father. They will not be able to prove that Jonathan Quilles is in fact the father of the unborn child. They don't have a body. Therefore, we believe they cannot meet their burden of premeditated murder.
The biggest challenge for prosecutors is that we're living in a time when people expect to see DNA, direct evidence via video, and if you don't have a body, you don't have a murder weapon, and your case is largely circumstantial, it's tough to convince juries that you should send this person to jail for life or even the death penalty.
The state of Florida is banking on a strong slate of witnesses, along with purported admissions of guilt made by Jonathan Quilles himself to his brother and jailhouse informants. Naomi Mobley, Ayanna's aunt and Jonathan Quilles' now ex-wife, at whose home Ayanna spent so much time, testifies. She says she was initially defensive, but when her sister showed her Snapchats between the two, she changed her tune.
What, if anything, did you do thereafter?
I told him at that time that he needed to stop speaking with my nieces and he needs to give my family space. I said that it looks really bad and he needs to distance himself.
Did you learn thereafter whether or not he stopped speaking and or communicating?
I learned after that he did in fact continue speaking with them.
So what are we looking at in State 64?
These are the messages from Snapchat.
The Snapchats from Quilles in the months leading up to Ayanna's disappearance were sometimes sexually explicit and even seemingly threatening.
9/4/2018, 9/27. I'm very aggravated right now. I'm going to hit you later. 9/7/2018, 12/21. Yeah, so I need you to be like 100% with me at all times. I'm just so in love with you, I'll kill you and cry.
Quilles' brother Joseph also gives emotional testimony about his conversations with Jonathan. As evidenced by their phone records, they talked 4 times between December 18th and 20th, 2018, the time period of Ayanna's disappearance. Joseph could tell his brother wasn't acting like himself.
His demeanor was a little off. It was kind of like he was nervous or a little panicky about something.
Have you heard your brother sound panicky to you on previous occasions?
No, he was more concerned about what is he going to do with the young lady in question. That she might be pregnant, and what is he going to do? He doesn't want to ruin his family and mess up what he has already going on.
In their last conversation, Jonathan Quilles seemingly finally came clean about what exactly he did on December 19th, 2018. He picked up Ayanna from school, telling her they would run away and be together.
He had her sitting in a vehicle, waiting. He tried to strangle her. It didn't work out. He couldn't stomach it. And so then he later shot her in the chest. And then he proceeded to discard the body by transporting it into a dumpster and destroying the vehicle.
Now, Mr. Quilles, were you surprised by what he told you?
Absolutely.
On December 20th, Joseph wrote his brother a heartfelt text, which the prosecutor reads in court.
I can't talk to you right now. I have to stay firm on my decision. What you told me isn't some joke or something you like about. So yes, I told the police because they needed to know. I'm sorry I have to do the right thing for that girl and her family, not the right thing for you and your selfishness. I hate to lose you, but I'd rather that the girl's family have some peace. If you're innocent, then you don't need to worry and they won't find her body. But if you're not, they're going to find her. And in that case, I already lost my brother.
The jury had seen and heard enough. They were ready to deliver their verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Verdict count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Verdict count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of engaging in an act that constitutes sexual battery.
After almost 5 years of living and breathing IS's case, getting to know IS, seeing IS's picture every day in my office, the best words ever were heard: guilty.
Jonathan Quilles was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. But Ayanna Sawyer's body has heartbreakingly never been found. Up next, it is a tragic story of a 7-year-old girl. I want you to meet Harmony Montgomery, a sweet, blonde-haired, blue-eyed 7-year-old who loved Minnie Mouse. Back in 2021, she was reported missing by her mother, Crystal. But the strangest thing about the report was that she actually hadn't been seen in over 2 years.
Manchester Police received a report this week that Harmony Montgomery has not been seen since October 2019, when she was last seen in a residence in Manchester at that time. The circumstances surrounding this prolonged absence are very concerning. Manchester Police became aware of this week, and I know people are going to say, well, here it is 2021, almost 2022. What's happened in the last 2 years? Fair question, right? That's why I'm here today, because we don't have many answers.
December 31st, 2021. Manchester Police announced the mysterious disappearance of 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery, who was reported missing by her birth mother, 31-year-old Crystal Sorey, about a month earlier.
Harmony is 7 years old, weighs approximately 50 pounds with blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm imploring, I'll go as far as I'm begging the community. I don't care if you saw this young girl a year ago and you think it's irrelevant.
Harmony's mother, Crystal, you can only imagine what had been going through her mind. We think about investigations working on a timeline. If the last time she is seen was back in 2019, what has happened all these months afterwards? Where could she be?
To understand how we got here, we need to know a little bit more about the sordid history of Harmony's family.
By all accounts, Harmony was one of the sweetest girls that you could have met. Harmony loved Minnie Mouse. She was a bright girl, a vibrant girl. She was born in June of 2014 to Adam Montgomery and Crystal Sorey, but they separated not too long after her birth.
Both these individuals have got histories of drug abuse. Within roughly a year, 2 years of Harmony being born, her dad, Adam, was actually imprisoned. So Crystal has custody, but because of problems with drug abuse, social services saw fit to take Harmony out of Crystal's household and placed her into the foster care system. Adam gets out of prison and he floats around a bit.
Eventually, Adam made the decision that he wanted custody of Harmony back, so he went through the process and obtained that custody.
Crystal wound up in a drug rehab center, trying to get her life back on track. While she was there was sporadic contact with Harmony. The last contact was Easter of 2019, where she was allowed to have a video visit with Harmony. Adam was married to Kayla Montgomery. The problem with Kayla, though, is that Kayla, just like Crystal and just like Adam Montgomery, had a problem with drug dependency.
Adam started to cut off contact with Crystal. He would block Crystal on social media, block her phone number. There were times when she actually came up to Manchester because she was living in Massachusetts to look for Harmony.
However, Crystal says she searched for months and was unable to find 31-year-old Adam Montgomery or her daughter. As detectives work to locate Adam to talk to him about Harmony's disappearance, they first speak with his then wife, 31-year-old Kayla Montgomery.
Police said, hey, we need to talk to Adam. Do you know where we can find him? And that sort of started the chain of dominoes.
At this point, time is of the essence, but given Adam's track record, he's proving tough to find.
During this time frame, COVID's going on, a lot of shutdowns are happening, people aren't seeing family much. The biggest factor is the dad being so much of a transient. He is going to be hard to track down.
Yet just hours after speaking with Kayla, police stumble upon Adam and his new girlfriend in Manchester.
I got 2 occupants both asleep. We make contact right now. Show me your hands. Keep your hands where I can see them. Step on out. going on? What's your name, my man?
What?
Adam.
Law enforcement discovers Adam in kind of like a park area, sleeping in his car.
You have anything on you? No. All right, come right over here. What's wrong? I'm just gonna pat you down, make sure you don't have any weapons. What's going on, though? What's the problem?
First and foremost, what they realize is Adam's there, his new girlfriend's there, his other kids are there, but guess who's not there? Harmony.
People are concerned with me. I'm not talking to the police about nothing. I'm not under arrest.
Right now you're being detained, yes. Not under arrest, but you're being detained.
Any particular reason you don't want to talk to them?
I don't talk to the police.
Why's that?
Should I call a lawyer?
The most interesting part to this is Adam's reaction to their questions. It's not like, oh my God, I've been looking for her too. Can you please help me find her? His reaction is, am I under arrest?
You have custody of her, right? Right. So what would you be doing wrong if you have custody of her and she's in a safe place? You know what I mean?
Police have to consider, maybe the child just sort of wandered off. Maybe the child was kidnapped by a stranger. Maybe Harmony had gone to live with other family. And these were all avenues that police had to look at, all through this lens of 2 years in the past.
So I just need to know that she's okay. If she's okay, I can say, hey, DCYF, she's fine.
I have nothing else to say.
Can you assure me that your daughter's okay?
Yeah.
Do you know where she is?
Yeah.
Okay. Is she with family? Can you just answer me if she's
I'm
with
done
family,
answering
man?
questions. If you want to arrest me, arrest me.
The police were having a very difficult time kind of penetrating the shell that Adam Montgomery has around him, and he has it around him from long years of experience with interacting with the police.
You've been around the block. You're not in it.
I'm under arrest. I'm under arrest.
I told you you're under arrest.
All right, so I would like to keep going. I would like to go then.
I need to know that you saw your daughter alive recently.
I haven't seen her recently.
Why not? You're her dad. You love your kids, right?
Yeah.
So why the didn't you see your kid?
I haven't been around here, man. I've been in Maine.
Adam's overall response is, what am I supposed to do? There's no action for me to take. I don't know where she is, so I can't give you anything else. I think the sticking point for these officers was, Adam, why aren't you upset?
You see why we're concerned. Nobody's seen her
I
in
get
2
that,
years.
but I have nothing to say. So, like, either you guys are going to arrest me or not. I'm not under arrest, and I would like to go. That's it.
Just sad, man, that I can't even check on your daughter and she's sure she's okay.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Like, you're telling me she's okay, but I want to see.
He's fumbling around a decent amount, but he basically says she's with her birth mom. And then kind of his defensive tactics come up.
If she's supposed to be with Crystal, I need some ideas of like what the hell Crystal did to your daughter. You're telling me that you didn't. You're telling me she's fine, right? That's what you told me.
Yep.
Okay. You know that she's not dead.
I got nothing else to say, man. Am I under arrest?
Dude, how many times are you gonna ask me that?
Well, come on, John, because I want to go. Go talk to Crystal.
I did talk to her.
Go talk to her again.
Interestingly enough, he responds that she's okay, she's with her mom, but Crystal is the one that's kind of set the wheels in motion here.
During the course of the investigation, an uncle comes into the picture who actually says that Adam had a history of abuse.
Adam's uncle Kevin tells them about Adam having struck Harmony in the face earlier in 2019, months before she disappeared. That was the moment that he became the primary suspect in whatever did happen to Harmony.
So now the police, they're on high alert because we have a child who's missing. There's a report that the father put his hands on that child. It becomes a red flag situation that's extremely important for the officers to get to the bottom of.
This alleged assault gives investigators another chance to question this father about his daughter.
We got a lot of worried people and scared people right now in the community. I don't want you to be painted as a monster.
Well, that's what you guys are already doing.
You understand what the charges are, right?
Second-degree assault, right?
Yep.
Okay.
There's also an endangering the welfare charge.
Okay.
And interference with custody.
Adam Montgomery is arrested, but it's not for Harmony's disappearance. Out in New Hampshire, as authorities are investigating the disappearance of 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery, they arrest her father, Adam Montgomery, but it's not exactly for what you might think.
The second-degree assault charge, what is this referring to?
Well, your daughter had some injuries that you know about when you lived on Guilford Street.
What are you referring to?
Well, you were there, I wasn't, right?
Well, what are you referring to?
Marks that were left on her by you.
Absolutely not.
Much like the initial interaction in the park, Adam's demeanor is pretty blasé throughout. The time he gets fired up the most is when police are basically telling him that he did something bad to his daughter, talking about the assault.
What you just said to me, you guys are completely out of line.
Okay, but so explain to me, how are we out of line?
I have nothing to explain.
Okay, but wouldn't you rather explain it so we can make sense of it than just have other people's side of the story?
They're not there necessarily to explore the circumstances around that assault. What they are hoping for is that he's going to make some kind of spontaneous admission about his involvement in the disappearance of Harmony.
The more Adam says, the more his story seems to fall apart.
The thing about police and investigators in particular, when you blow them off and you do not give them direct information, that makes any investigator worth their salt. It makes them want to dig deeper and harder, because what's at stake here is the life of a child.
Can you make me a promise? Like man to man? Can you tell me that she's alive?
You're gonna play the same word games that you played with me the other day.
It's not word games.
I got nothing else.
Because we care, man. We want to know. This isn't gonna go anywhere. Like, this isn't gonna stop. So either get on the bus now or get run over.
I got nothing else to say. I want a lawyer.
It was at this point the police knew that they were on the right track.
Adam Montgomery is charged with second-degree assault for allegedly hitting Harmony years prior, and his wife, Kayla Montgomery, is facing charges of her own in relation to this young girl.
Police had identified roughly when Harmony had disappeared, and specifically when she was no longer living with Adam and Kayla. Kayla was continuing to represent to the state offices that they did have Harmony with them, and she was charged with various offenses relating to theft of benefits. Kayla was receiving food stamps and other benefits from the state.
But there's still not a clear picture of where Harmony Montgomery could be.
The investigators don't have a starting point. So they spend the next couple of months looking for information. You see the reward in this case skyrocket. Now imagine everybody that's going to try and come out of the woodworks and give anything they know for $150,000. That's the hope.
However, months later, in August 2022, officials announce a monumental update in the investigation.
I'm beyond saddened that we stand here today to announce that the disappearance of Harmony Montgomery is now officially a homicide investigation.
Members of the Manchester Police Department, the U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI have devoted thousands of hours gathering evidence and pursuing numerous leads. All of these efforts have led us to conclude that Harmony Montgomery was murdered.
Adam Montgomery, Harmony's own father, faces a possible life sentence when he's officially charged with second-degree murder. And it's what happens after he's charged that unfortunately confirms investigators' suspicions.
You hear people come up with, and they'll gave a report to the police and was like, Adam gave it to his daughter to hand to Larry about the liquor, like he bring you to the store, they had the FBI and everybody else here taking up the liquor. I'm like, is this still right right now? Like, hey, what did you do?
That jail phone call almost brings the whole investigation full circle. Here's Adam on the phone telling the person he's speaking to that it's a waste of time for police to be looking for her. You know, that says two things. It says that whatever he did to her, wherever he put her, he's confident that it's somewhere really good, that the police aren't going to be able to find her without his help. But it also just goes to not caring.
More than 4 years after Harmony Montgomery's death, and even still without a body or remains, Adam Montgomery is set to stand trial for murder. But just before proceedings begin in February 2024, Adam Montgomery makes a shocking move.
At the start of his trial, Adam was present for jury selection, but then when it came time for trial to actually start, Adam refused to appear. Another thing Adam did at the beginning of trial, he admitted to the abuse of a corpse and falsifying physical evidence charge. He didn't plead guilty to it, which is what a lot of people think, but he basically just conceded. He said, yep, the state has enough evidence. It was probably the best strategic move he could have made in the face of a very strong case.
The prosecution said that's not enough. We still believe that you were responsible for her death.
It's then that the gruesome details of what allegedly happened to young Harmony Montgomery are revealed, and prosecutors paint a chilling picture of unimaginable cruelty.
Where is Harmony Montgomery? Where is Harmony? When people across this nation were looking for Harmony, there's one person who is not. Her biological father. He was the only person in this world who knows where Harmony is, who butchered her body, and who disposed of her like yesterday's trash.
Kayla was there, she was a witness, and she essentially told police, I saw Adam murder Harmony. The information that Kayla gave was essentially that Harmony had been having bathroom accidents in the car, and Adam snapped.
For 2 years, that man got away with murder. And so he went to great lengths to cover up his crime. He carried her body with him for months, and he discarded her with zero appreciation for the life that he'd taken. And in the months that followed, he beat, he injured, he terrorized the only witness to his crime. She was his loose end, Kayla Montgomery, his wife.
She wouldn't let us know when she had to use the bathroom, and so she was peeing in the car.
How is the defendant responding when she had these accidents?
Getting angry.
December 7th of 2019.
Yeah.
Does that day stand out to you?
Yes.
Why?
This is the day that Harmony passed away.
How many times did he hit her?
I can't count, I don't know.
Did the defendant say anything to Harmony?
Told her to shut the f up. Stop crying.
All it takes is one final furious blow to her head, and suddenly you've got a bleed that occurs within the brain.
Did he try to help Harmony while he was striking her?
Yes, but he gave me this look that was like evil. His crazy eyes, like he was gonna hit me.
When it came to hiding Harmony's body, Kayla says Adam went to extreme lengths to cover up what happened.
He took the duffel bag that was in the trunk and put her in the duffel bag.
Did you attempt to get away, to run?
No.
Why not?
They had the 2 other kids and I was scared.
Kayla, why stay with someone that does this to you?
Yes, I was scared. And I still cared about him.
In the end, the jury convicted Adam Montgomery of second-degree murder, as well as second-degree assault, witness tampering, falsifying physical evidence, and abuse of a corpse.
December 7th will forever be the darkest day of my life. Did she cry for me? Did she scream? Did she beg you to stop? I'll never know. You're too much of a coward to tell the truth and do one good thing for Harmony. You may have taken her physically from me, but she is always, always with me.
You robbed a 5-year-old girl, your own daughter, of the life that she was to lead. You stole from your sons a sister. You took a daughter from her mother. The charge of second-degree murder You are sentenced to the New Hampshire State Prison for not more than life nor less than 45 years.
To this day, Harmony's remains have not been found. Over now to our next case. Meet 13-year-old Alec, 11-year-old Tyler, and 4-year-old Zoe. Just happy kids living in Celebration, Florida with their mom, Megan, and their dad, Anthony. They have been missing for weeks, and Anthony's sister contacts local law authorities to conduct a welfare check on the family.
My sister-in-law was making a comment about, and we just kind of put it all together, about basically the world ending on the 28th, and nobody has talked to them.
He was losing control in his life, losing control financially.
We're back now with Anthony Todt, the patriarch of a family who have seemed to have disconnected from the world. But something to know about Todt. The physical therapist was actually under surveillance by federal authorities.
What is he wanted for?
Healthcare fraud. Healthcare fraud could be overbilling or billing for services not rendered, basically fraud against Medicare or Medicaid.
It seemed pretty clear that he was in a very bad financial situation. He was trying to arrange it so his children and wife would have a lot of enjoyment. They moved 15 minutes away from Disney World. He spent a lot of money on a condominium. When that started to unravel, he knew that he would be viewed as a failure.
So the plan was we were going to do some surveillance, get some info, take our photos, see if we could find any information about where this family was.
In January 2020, armed with an arrest warrant, deputies move in on Todt.
Tony, talk! Police! Tony, come to the door. We knocked, no one came to the door. The door was unlocked, so we popped it open. We slowly made our way in. He was at the top of the stairs.
Tony, you coming downstairs? All right. Tony, you upstairs? Hey, come downstairs, bud. Everything's all right, man. Just stay calm. Any children here? I can't remember if they went to a sleepover last night.
We asked him where Megan and the children were. He said Megan was upstairs sleeping, and he also called for her. We were getting no answer.
What's your wife's name? Megan. Megan? Megan. All right, come on down, bud.
We made our way upstairs to check on the children and check on Megan. The master bedroom door was open.
Got a locked door.
Megan?
What investigators find next is unimaginable.
I didn't see Megan because she was, the way her blanket was.
And
or
you saw the
something
children? They're all pretty much black.
The two boys, I just saw Zoe's hair.
Okay.
But yes, the two boys are as black as this leather. There's also a dog, so just there may be another deceased.
Megan, Alec, Tyler, Zoe, and the family dog Breezy are all found dead, decomposing in an upstairs bedroom.
It was especially bloody. You had people who were drugged, the children were drugged with Benadryl, and then you have some brutal stabbings.
What begins as a fraud case suddenly turns into a horrifying homicide investigation.
He lived with the bodies in the condominium for about 3 weeks. During that time, according to the police, the smell of decomposition was extremely pronounced.
Todt is taken to the hospital. He appears disoriented and unstable. In fact, he says he swallowed a large amount of Benadryl. It's at the hospital when he has his first interview with police.
Tell me what happened.
My wife is, I want to say, chronically ill, with liver issues and all that kind of stuff. And what was told to me is that when people die, they go to different aspects, and then sometimes never meet up in the light energy aspect.
He talked about how she started to adopt Eastern religions. She started getting involved in other, almost like fantastical beliefs, like medical mediums and stuff.
Friday night, it was supposed to be a three-step plan, so we all stay together and go up. One person separated to the other.
The confession, well, it was a confession. There was a tremendous level of explanation going on.
Between Megan and I, we suffocated and as needed, and tried to get the aortic valve, which is deep. And we wanted to both go everybody to go very peacefully. We wanted everybody together.
Okay.
And that was my wife's wish, everybody together.
He would say that was essentially all a dream, that he didn't remember any of that. He was in some type of zombie state. He was looking to blame the drugs for his confession.
You murdered your 3 children.
I know.
You take full responsibility for that?
I don't take full responsibility. Meg was involved, but I'll take full responsibility.
Well, Megan's dead.
When Toad is brought in for questioning a few days later, he shares more horrifying specifics about the killings. Just a warning, what you're about to hear is extremely graphic.
My wife had started, she began watching these videos talking about the afterlife. We started researching, and then we started finding more about the world is coming to the end, the apocalyptic end, to avoid this, to all go together.
Die together?
Die together, that's correct. Because my wife's been chronically ill for a while, this really appealed to her. Maybe a salvation and everlasting life.
This was a guy who had perhaps some delusions, but not enough to make him not understand the difference between right and wrong.
We had sat down and talked with the boys and Zoe just on, what would happen if mommy died, how would you feel, what happened if daddy died, what would you feel? And the consistent responses was that we don't want you to die, we want to die with you.
According to the police, Anthony used a variety of methods, the Benadryl.
Something came on TV about cough medicine, okay? So could they have some cough medicine that I put them to sleep, like overdose of cough medicine, just put them to sleep. Didn't work. And we said, we're just gonna have to do some sort of exsanguination, okay? Bleed to death.
Toad goes into detail about killing 4-year-old Zoe.
She rolled and started squiggling, and I put my hand over her mouth and then put a pillow over top of her. She started to fade away, and I just held that until there was no motion left.
It's one thing to kind of mumble an answer, like, oh, I killed somebody. It's something else to give a very detailed explanation of every single homicide that occurred.
So Zoe's gone, and then what happens?
We go into Alex's room. We're just in there, just eyeing each other, just gaining the confidence. I stabbed him, and he started kicking, was trying to get up, and I reached around with my hand and held his nose in his mouth.
Tote claims that he and Megan were worried that their 11-year-old son Tyler would run away.
And I was able to get in and get the knife right in there. I got it, and it started bleeding quite a bit. He went really, really, really quick.
This was especially horrific, and I've seen a lot of bad stuff as state attorney. But this one, you destroy an entire family.
We decided that the dog went the dog with us, and I was able to hold the knot in her snout and her nose closed, and she went peacefully.
Tote claims that Megan wanted to die next.
Meg wanted to go. Gave her the knife, and I laid next to her, and she put the knife into her stomach. We were laying there for about 45 minutes. After she stabbed herself, she says, I feel nothing happening. So she decided to go through her liver.
She was stabbed with deep knife wounds multiple times.
With 2 hands pushed in. She pulled it out, she put the knife right next to her, and I just laid with her. It seemed like hours went by and nothing else happening. She goes, I want this ended now. She goes, I want you to take the pillowcase, put a pillow and put it over my head. She goes, if you love me, you can do this. I want to be with my babies. So I said, why don't you take some more Benadryl, so at least you're not going to fight me, and I'll do it. So then it came to me.
He was pretty efficient at killing them all. That's what he wanted to achieve, and he did it in a pretty straightforward fashion. But when he talked about ending his own life, he couldn't figure out how to do it.
We didn't get there till, what, Monday. What were you doing during this time frame? We're talking over 2 weeks.
Trying to kill myself. I tried the razor blade zip tie around the neck, was trying to figure out how to go through and fall on the knife in the right direction. In all honesty, I chickened out and cowered it out with a knife.
So we see kind of a disconnect there between the methods that he used that were successful and then these alleged methods that he used that were not successful.
You've upset a lot of people. You guys seem very planned. This is very methodical. Other than the fact about you taking your own life, which I'm still kind of questioning. You take full
responsibility once it's done.
Now, Anthony Tote has admitted to killing his entire family, including the family dog. But he tells his sister a completely different story.
I want you to know a couple things. And I absolutely loved, honored, and obeyed Megan through everything. Because when things will come out, you should talk about it right now. Realize that, okay? I don't remember anything pretty much over Christmas and the first week I got here. I don't remember coming here. I don't remember anything after the events would happen. I have no idea where I was, where I am. The only thing I remember is being at the hospital.
His claim was that he was kind of out of it. He had hit his head. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't remember the confession.
Tote tells his sister he wasn't home the night his family was killed, that he was actually at their nearby condo.
The night everything happened, okay, I'm going to tell you this. I went over because Zoe wanted her Mickey silver necklace for reasons you'll find out later. I ended up falling asleep. Let's just leave it at that, okay? I fell asleep I was supposed to wake up at 11:30, and didn't wake up till the next morning. I have no idea what I told investigators because I was completely stoned. I was asleep. I miss you guys tremendously. I miss Megan and the kids. I can't believe she did this. Love is blind sometimes, and when things happen that you're not expecting.
These aren't things that we should talk about now.
I have nothing to hide, so just know that I'll protect Megan to the very end.
Those that know you just want to understand.
I want to make you understand the horrors. I really do. It's funny, I didn't do any of this.
You what?
I didn't do any of this. I haven't said goodbye to them yet.
In April of 2022, it would be up to a jury to sort out the truth as Anthony Tote's criminal trial began.
You're going to be informed by the defendant in his interview that he is the one that took the lives of Megan Tote, Alexander Tote, Tyler Tote, and Zoe Tote.
Tote's defense calls only one witness, Anthony Tote himself.
I came home and my kids were dead. It was the most horrible day of my life. And what made me more horrible is my wife died in front of me also. Did you kill your family? No.
If you put it all on the wife's not there to rebut it, and that can work sometimes. If you can portray the victim in a negative light.
I didn't even see this coming. They say, blindsided. This was a blindside by like a Mack truck filled with dynamite.
Tote then faced cross-examination by the prosecution.
You told detectives that you went into Zoe's room, you gathered the courage, and you rolled over on top of your daughter until she suffocated. Isn't that what you told law enforcement?
Is this a yes or no question, or do you want the answer?
Yes or no question.
That is what the video, yes, showed me.
And your testimony here today is that Megan did it.
Megan killed Zoe.
And that phrase, that's what the video says, that's what the video shows, as if it was some type of alternate universe.
You told law enforcement multiple times that Tyler was fast and he was...
You saw the video, and you saw the video also of saying I said things that have been proven incorrect.
That's not responsive to my question.
Actually, it is. But
yes?
I don't remember anything after I left the house till I got to jail.
Well, that is you in the video, right?
It's a sickly version of me, yes. Thank God I didn't tell you I assassinated Kennedy.
There's no question.
Where the Benadryl comes in and it's mental health issues, it could try to convince a jury that he did not know what he was saying when he was confessing.
You told law enforcement on multiple occasions that you went into Alec's room and you stabbed Alec and you suffocated Alec. Isn't that correct?
That's partially correct.
And your testimony today is that that is not true.
My testimony today is the fact that Megan killed her kids and killed herself.
But is the jury convinced? After deliberating for just over 6 hours, they return with their verdict.
State of Florida versus Anthony John Tote. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of cruelty to animals.
Anthony Tote is convicted on all charges.
I think they could have made an okay argument that it was possible that Megan was the killer, But there was no way to get around that confession. No matter what they said, when that confession came in, that was the end of it.
His whole defense is undermined by the fact that he stayed with the dead bodies. This guy had the means, motive, and opportunity. He was desperate financially, he was acting irrationally, and he committed this horrific crime and then tried to cover it up.
But just before Toad is sentenced, he addresses the court one last time.
This was a personal catastrophe in everybody's life in my family, including myself. I maintain my innocence. I loved my wife. I loved my children. I was not there the night my children died.
I think this speaks to that whole kind of pressured speech vibe that Anthony gives off. He demands that people listen to him. He can't comprehend that they wouldn't believe his lies. You know, maybe it was just his last chance of getting attention.
So
this is not helping you from this progress on, so I encourage you to...
I'm sorry. I did not do this.
To profess his innocence till the end, it just adds insult to injury. Here's a guy who perhaps believes his own lies or is just such a megalomaniac that thinks he could talk his way out of it.
A jury has unanimously determined, after listening to the evidence presented, that you, Anthony John Todt, are a destroyer of worlds. You are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
This was his way of exerting what little control he had left in the world. And that's why the judge said, you're a destroyer of worlds. That was the only power he had left, to destroy others' worlds. And he did. But now he's got to pay the price.
A heartbreaking end to an even more heartbreaking case. I hope that this episode serves as a tribute to the memories of all those that we have lost. We never know where or when devastation may strike. But one thing is for sure, we must remain vigilant in the protection and safety of all children. That is all we have for you here on Prime Crime. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jesse Weber, and until next time, stay safe.